So it appears that a large-scale attack is imminent. And this is kind of a dangerous place to be. You're out on a limb when you're predicting something, but I'm telling you this because historically, a couple of things are lining up that would predict that that's going to happen. Let's explain what I mean. So, large attack tomorrow. Well, actually, tonight into tomorrow is likely to happen. What I mean by that is this. So, Putin has a history of having a big attack before some kind of meeting, like Istanbul, like last year was Spiderweb, and Spiderweb happened. It preempted Putin's large scale attack just before the Istanbul conference, and they were very upset about that. You're probably going to see that kind of thing happen because that's tomorrow in Istanbul. Okay. Now, with that, there's also another factor that has taken place here, and that is that this 42 number, when they have this really low ebb, they'll have a couple of days of low, and then they'll hit with a lot of missiles. That's missiles and Shahed drones. That's a pretty normal thing for the Russians. So I think it's pretty safe to say that that's going to happen. Now, the success that the Russians have had has gone up some depending on how they strike and when they strike. When they have greater success, it's not due to weak Ukrainian defenses, but because Moscow has changed tactics targeting Ukrainian cities. So they fly the Shaheds higher, they fly them faster, they swarm. The swarming is really a significant strategy that has been, and Ukraine, to its credit, has blunted what Russia has done to a large degree. Like yesterday, 94% shoot down rate for the Shahed drones. That's pretty significant. Now, when Russia does well, it's when they hit these other not major cities like Kyiv. Like, again, Kharkiv, they gets hit pretty hard, but that's because it's so close to the Russian border. Outside of Kyiv or something like that, like if it's hitting a city that you haven't heard of, it has real strong success because there's not as much air defense. Okay, overnight on July 22nd, today is July 22nd, Russia launched 42 Shahed drones and decoys, and 26 were shot down or suppressed, 7 others disrupted by electronic warfare. So 9 get through, and like, okay, there's some damage. Russia attacked Sumy and Odessa last night. In Sumy, 12 people were injured, 5 residential buildings, shopping mall, 18 vehicles were damaged. In Odessa, residential buildings damaged, vehicles burned down, 1 person injured. Attacks overnight in Odessa, hit by drones, cars burned, residential buildings, homes, store was damaged. Again, this is in Odessa as well, buildings and infrastructure damaged, and you can see just what's happened. I mean, damage is happening. It's getting through. Now, there's also more ick from Russia. 3 Russian soldiers killed a civilian on a bike in Turetsk or Tursky. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correct. Region of Ukraine. Soon afterwards, Ukrainian defenders from the 63rd Separate Mechanized Brigade found and killed these Russian criminals. They're just attacking civilians. Like, this kind of thing happens regularly. It's not the kind of thing that you heard happen in Kursk unless you were hearing fabricated stuff from Russian state media. Okay, Ukrainian forces yesterday, this wasn't overnight. This was, I saw this yesterday afternoon, which meant that it was the previous day. Ukrainian forces struck Russian S-300P and Nebo-M radar in Belgorod, weakening long-range airstrike defenses, exposing troop vulnerabilities. That's right. And they're trying to create this like corridor where the radars are ineffective so they can fire their missiles and drones through that. Ukrainian drones struck the Milerovo air base in Rostov region. More than 10 explosions were heard. Kremlin propaganda and Ministry of Defense proudly reported that the attack was successfully repelled and all drones were intercepted. And it reminds me, like, I've been in martial arts for years. In judo, we have a phrase, don't worry, the ground will catch you. Like, when you're being thrown, the ground will always catch you. Don't worry about that. Well, that's kind of what's happening here. In Moscow, unknown individuals torched the car of Vladimir Petrov, head of Petrov Engineering, a company producing drones and electrical components for the Russian military. Now, that could have just been some mob relation. It could be random. It could have been that a car went up naturally for some, careless cigarette. But given that he was in charge of a company producing drones and electrical components for the Russian military, it seems like the probability is that this was intentional and pro-Ukrainian. Okay. Russia comes to terms with passengers sleeping in airports following a wave of flight delays. Moscow's airport has been distributing mattresses to stranded travelers. Eyewitnesses say that they are primarily given to families with children stuck in terminals for dozens of hours. Flights are being delayed or canceled due to ongoing drone attacks, which are paralyzing Russia's air traffic and causing massive financial losses. And it really is. And it's like night over night, the airport has been menaced by Ukrainian drones. Okay, let's look at what's going on the battlefield. 1,090 Russians off the battlefield, 1 tank, 7 armored fighting vehicles, 43 artillery systems, 94 vehicles and fuel tanks. So engagements are up, but casualties are down between days, and the strike ratio remains in double digits. And that strike ratio is because when you have 450 drones and missiles coming into Ukraine, well, that strike ratio is going to be high. Here are the losses that Andrew Perpetua could identify for the 20th. And I've showed you this for the last 4 or 5 days, and it's been bad for Ukraine. Today, it's the first day that is slightly pro-Ukraine, and Russia is slightly more things than things hit. Like, and this could be a car or tank or whatever, motorcycle. It doesn't, whatever it is. This is the first day in a while that it's been like that. And again, we're 2 days delayed because like he's got to get this done. There's a lot of work going on his end. I wouldn't want his job. Okay, in the Pokrovsk direction, the Russian fascist invaders conducted 43 assaults, according to Michael McKay. He tracks this across the battlefield, and we look at Pokrovsk particularly because this is the hottest spot, that the spot that the Russians want most. Reports from Ukrainian monitoring deep state map is accurate. Russian sabotage groups did manage to infiltrate Pokrovsk several days ago. As of this writing, it's confirmed that some groups have reached the outskirts of the town itself and remain there. Now, that's not terrible news necessarily. They've reached the outskirts of Pokrovsk before. So this isn't like, oh no, the sky is falling. This is, it's happened before and they've been repelled. Now, how long will they be repelled? That's the question. Sputnik is showing us this. Sputnik is, by the way, state media from Russia. Russian army keeps advancing in Pokrovsk. Well, yeah, I mean, they've been advancing toward Pokrovsk for some time. Russian forces may capture the city by late August or early September, Western analysts say. Right. Okay. So Western analysts say is to try to make it like give it more force. Okay. So let's talk about this. This time last year, I was nervous that Pokrovsk was going to fall by August or September of last year. So, I mean, the rate of advance was significant. And I was like, whoa, I mean, I come on, General Winter, come here quick so that it can slow things down. So, okay. So it could happen. It probably will, given enough time and wearing down. But what's really on the other side of that? So if you look at Sputnik, you see like why Pokrovsk matters. The liberation of Pokrovsk would enable Russian troops to reach the western borders of the Donetsk People's Republic and continue their push into Zaporizhia. Okay, so yes, it would allow them to gain more ground. But then there's another line of defense about 20 kilometers back and then the line behind that and the line behind that. So yeah, it's bad. It's not strategic in the sense that it's not going to change the outcome of the war. It'll just allow Russia to gain a little bit more yardage. So yeah, I mean, the Russians want it badly and they want to close in on the border of Donetsk. I get it, but I wouldn't worry about it in any meaningful, like strategic sense. Tactically, it would be a gain, no doubt. Okay. The Ukrainian drone drops a thermobaric munition with precision on a house used as a shelter. Look at that. That's thermobaric. And let me just move this up a little bit. You can see this thing coming down. That is a thermobaric munition. Wow. Okay. Russia is preparing the largest military buildup since the fall of the Soviet Union, according to Budanov. The Kremlin is mobilizing its entire political system, economy, society and potential large-scale war with $1.1 trillion allocated for rearmament through 2036. Okay, so yeah, that looks a little larger than it is because we're talking about like it's 2025 right now, and we're talking about through 2036. But still, it is a big military buildup. 2 new military districts, Moscow and Leningrad, have been established, and the formation of new divisions and units is already underway. Russia isn't going away. They're not stopping. And so we have to understand that. Now, while they're not stopping, they're fighting less than efficiently. And they're slaughtering men because they have too many of them and they waste them. And I talked about this the other day. Here's another thing from Chris O. Corrupt Russian officers often extort bribes for not sending men into what are likely suicidal assaults. That is, it's like the mob. They're shaking them down. Hey, if you don't want to get sent into the slaughter, pay up. Men are hidden from inspectors to prevent exposure. Russian soldier explains how the scam works. The attitude is like toward cattle. I talked about this at some length yesterday, why Russia keeps losing so many troops, the brutal truth. Go watch that if you want answers to that. I'm not going to relitigate that here. Newly unboxed AIM-9LM Sidewinder air-to-air missiles for the Ukrainian Air Force. That's what they look like, and they're getting the things that they need. It's slower than you would like, but things are trickling in. Ukraine has copied Russia's Lancet loitering munition, but Russian war bloggers say with dismay that the new Ukrainian Bulava munition is a significant improvement on Russia's original. That's one of the things that Ukraine does really well, is that they innovate very effectively. Okay, Ukraine's unmanned system forces commander Magyar. I showed a couple clips of what he was saying, but I didn't show you this. At NATO, they asked my opinion on their base. I said 4 Ukrainian FPV teams could turn it into Pearl Harbor in 15 minutes without coming within 10 kilometers. Wow. Cheap, accessible tech and T-hands could upend any country, he says. And we're not invulnerable. In fact, we're probably very vulnerable in the U.S., just given the freedom of movement that we have. Yeah, we want to be aware of what's happening. Here are some interceptor drones from the Omega Special Operation Group that are clipping the wings of Russian UAVs. You can watch that kind of thing all day. Vampire drones dropping firebombs. So much gas that one house they dropped like 3 to 4 liters of gas with an incendiary grenade inside, and then dropped like 5 to 7 more liters on top of the fire. This is a view from that. And then Perpetua said this: in my opinion, vampire drones are the scariest weapon in the war. That's crazy. Remember, our last fundraiser was for vampire drones. Now, the use was different. The use was because they can carry a lot of weight to shuttle things up to the front line, food, ammunition, whatever, so guys don't have to be in danger on the way to and from, right? Vampire drones are the scariest weapon of the war. How about that? Ukraine's Defense Intelligence has released a video compilation showcasing the battlefield deployment of unmanned ground vehicles. The video has a range of combat applications, from delivering explosive ordnance to serving as mobile grenade launcher platforms. Again, I am told that on the ground drones are going to be even more menacing than aerial drones, and I have a hard time processing how that's even possible. Ukrainian fiber optic winged FPV drones now have distances of 50 kilometers. 50 kilometers, that's big. Now, if it wasn't for drones, Ukraine would be, their backs would be up against the wall, because the drones are allowing to create a minefield per se. It's not mines on the ground, but if you're trying to cross that ground, these drones will come and get you, and the soldiers on each side know that. And so the drones have been just fundamental to Ukraine's success. I'll leave you with this last story, and then we'll talk about Jake Bro's fundraiser and the progress there. 21-year-old Vashlav lost his mother during the war and became the guardian of his 2 brothers and sisters. I incredibly want to, he said, and I want to work hard to ensure that they have a childhood. Although the young man had to grow up instantly and take on great responsibility, he draws strength from his family and does everything possible to make the children happy. Vashislav has an incredible strength. He has become not only a guardian, but an entire world of care, safety, and hope for a better future for his siblings. This is the kind of thing that Russia has brought to Ukraine. And it's deeply tragic, and yet the Ukrainian strength is just significant. 11 children aged 10 to 17 have returned from Russian-occupied territories in Russia. One girl was reunited with her mother after years apart. 5 siblings to Russia during fighting have made it home. And here we'll leave you with this. Jake Bros Save the Donkeys campaign. Yesterday at about 5 o'clock p.m., it is now 10:30 a.m. my time. 5 o'clock p.m., it was at $475,000 for the campaign. Now it is up to $533,000. So if you want to give to this $1 million campaign, again, this is his 5th. He did 4 before that raised over $1 million. I'll put the link below. All right. Thank you for your time, my friends. Thank you for the likes, the shares, the subscribes, and thank you for being the kind of person that cares about Ukraine.